I've carried mail for 11 years. Same zip code the whole time. Give or take a route change every couple of contracts. You learn a route the way you learn a person. Which dogs bark and don't bite. Which houses get packages every day and which ones get nothing but circulars. Which mailboxes lean a little more every winter because nobody ever tightens the post. Route 9 was mine for 4 years before any of this happened. Rural suburban mix, about 340 stops, mostly single-family homes with a stretch of older farmhouses toward the north end where the town used to end before the subdivisions ate the fields. I'm not going to give you the real route number or the real names. I'll tell you that much up front. Everything else, I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened. Because I've told this story maybe 6 times now to people who know me. And every single time I get to the part with the boots, somebody stops eating. So, 1187 Corliss Road. It's a farmhouse, white, with green trim gone gray. Set back from the road behind a row of dead cedars. When I started the route, it was already on my supervisor's list as a hold and forward, which is postal speak for a house that's not supposed to be getting mail at all. Every carrier has a handful of these. Foreclosures, estates in probate, places where the owner died and the family's still fighting about who gets it. Officially, you don't deliver there. You case it into the return to sender tray, or if it's flagged specifically, you leave it in a bin at the station for the supervisor to handle. 1187 Corliss had been flagged for 2 years by the time I got the route. My supervisor, a guy named Estes, who'd been with the post office almost 30 years, told me the short version once when I asked. Owner died, no next of kin ever filed anything. House went into some kind of legal limbo. Bank wouldn't touch it because of a lien dispute. Just don't deliver there, he said. If mail comes for it, box it up. I'll deal with it. That was the whole conversation. I didn't think about that house again for 1.5 years. Here's the thing about a vacant flag, though. It doesn't stop mail from arriving. It just means you're not supposed to deliver it. Some of it's junk. Every vacant address in America apparently is worth advertising to. Some of it's real. Bills that haven't been redirected, the occasional actual letter. All of it goes in a gray plastic tub at the station, and once a month or so, Estes would drive it out himself, or claim he did, and drop it wherever undeliverable mail is supposed to go. I never asked. It wasn't my job. Then, about 1 year into having the route, I started noticing the tub for 1187 wasn't filling up the way it should have. I want to be precise about this because precision is the only thing that made me trust myself later. A vacant house, especially one in a legal dispute, still generates mail. Property tax notices, county assessments, the occasional piece from a law firm. That's 4, 5, sometimes 8 pieces a month easy that should have been landing in that gray tub with 1187's number sharpied on a strip of tape. I was casing mail. One morning, casing means sorting it into delivery order before you load the truck, and I noticed the 1187 tub had exactly 1 item in it. 1 for the whole previous month. I flagged it to myself as odd but not alarming. Mail volume dips. Maybe the county changed their assessment cycle. I didn't think about it again until the dog. There's a house 2 doors down from 1187, the Kowalskis, and they have a big shepherd mix named Otto, who loses his mind every single day when the truck comes by, but only at his own fence line. He'd never once in 1.5 years cared about anything past his own property. One morning in early October, I'm coming up Corliss, and Otto is going insane, but he's not at his fence. He's at the far corner of his yard facing 1187, hackles up, barking at the house itself. I slowed the truck down. Nothing moved that I could see. Curtains, what was left of them, hung the same crooked way they always had. But Otto did not stop. He followed the fence line the whole way, barking at that house until I was past it. And then he just stopped. Went back to lying in his usual spot like nothing happened. I mentioned it to Mrs. Kowalski a few days later, just making conversation while she got her mail. She laughed it off at first. He's an idiot dog, don't read into it. But then she got quiet for a second and said, "Actually, he's been doing that on and off since summer. My husband thinks a raccoon's gotten into the crawl space over there." I said that made sense. I didn't believe it even a little, but I said it made sense because, what else do you say? The footprints started in November. First frost of the year, and I remember it specifically because I'd complained to my wife that morning about scraping ice off the windshield for the first time. Frost like that shows everything, every squirrel track, every cat that's crossed a lawn overnight. I pulled up to the mailbox cluster near 1187, and there was a single clean line of adult-sized boot prints coming down the driveway from the house, crossing the yard at an angle and disappearing at the road's edge, like whoever made them had gotten into a car and left. Not toward the Kowalskis, not toward the house behind it, just driveway to road gone. I stood there longer than I should have. Frost doesn't lie, and it doesn't hang around either. By 10 in the morning, it would have been gone with the sun, so whoever made those prints had done it recently. Maybe overnight, maybe at dawn. There was no car in the driveway. There never was. There was no sign of forced entry that I could see from the road. No broken window, nothing. Just a locked-up dead house and a fresh set of prints coming off it like someone had walked out the front door, straightened their coat, and left for work. I told myself it was kids. Teenagers dare each other into empty houses all the time. I did it myself once as a kid, some falling down place out past the reservoir. I almost let it go at that. Except the mail started disappearing. I want to walk you through exactly what disappearing means here because it matters. I was never delivering mail to 1187. I want to be clear about that. This isn't a story about me breaking protocol. What was happening was different. Junk mail, the pizza coupons, the We Buy Houses postcards, the stuff that goes to literally every address on a route, whether it's inhabited or not, that mail. The truck's automated flat sorting system still spits out address to 1187. And the postal regulation is you still have to physically go put undeliverable bulk mail in the box, then it's technically delivered per postal rules, even at a flagged address. And Estes collects it from there rather than me carrying it back in a tub. That was the actual system. I'm simplifying, but that's the gist. The point is, 1187's mailbox, standing at the end of that dead cedar driveway, was getting maybe 2 or 3 pieces of junk a week put into it by me per protocol. And starting that November, it was empty every single time I came back. Not someone official removed it. Empty in the way a mailbox is empty when someone opens it, takes everything out, and closes it again. The little red flag, which I always left down because nobody at 1187 was mailing anything out, was down when I approached and down when I left every time, but the box itself was clean. I did what anyone would do. I called it into Estes, told him someone might be squatting at 1187, that the dog next door had been acting strange, that there were footprints, and the mail kept disappearing. He said he'd look into it. 2 weeks later, nothing had changed, so I called the non-emergency police line myself, gave them the address, said I thought there might be trespassing. An officer told me they'd swing by when they had time. I don't know if they ever did. Nobody called me back. And it's not like they were obligated to. Here's where it stopped being something I could shrug off. Early December, I'm running the route, In the late afternoon, we'd had some truck trouble that day and I was behind schedule, so instead of my usual late morning pass down Corliss, I hit it around 4:30, with the light already going gray and long shadows off the cedars. I pull up to the cluster box, and the porch light at 1187 is on. I want to be very clear. That house did not have working electricity. It had been disconnected. I knew this because Mrs. Kowalski had mentioned once that the power company had come out to cap the meter almost 2 years back after the owner passed. Standard procedure for a vacant property. There should not have been power to that porch light, but it was on. A bare yellow bulb over the front door, glowing in that flat late afternoon dark. I sat in the truck for probably a full minute just looking at it, and then the door opened. I didn't see who opened it. What I saw was the door swing inward, the dark rectangle of the hallway behind it, and then it just stood open. Nobody stepped out. No shape in the doorway. It just opened, like someone inside had pulled it back and then stepped away from the frame, out of the light, waiting. I did not get out of that truck. I put it in drive and I finished the route. And I called Estes from my personal cell before I'd even gotten back to the station, and I told him I was not delivering anywhere near that house again without someone else present. He must have heard something in my voice, because for the first time he didn't brush me off. He said he'd drive out there himself the next morning before I started my route, take a look, maybe finally get the bank or the county to send someone to secure the place. He never got the chance to tell me what he found. Not really, because at 6 a.m. the next morning I got a text from him. 4 words. Don't go near 1187. I called him. He didn't pick up. I texted back asking what was going on, and about 20 minutes later he called me instead of texting. And his voice was different. Flat. Careful. The way people sound when they're choosing every word. He told me he'd gone out at first light, alone, just to look at the outside, nothing more. He said the porch light was off, exactly like it should be with no power. Nothing was disturbed, no sign of anyone. But the mailbox, the one that had been coming back empty for weeks, had something in it, not junk mail. A single, unmarked, unstamped envelope placed neatly inside, with my name on it. My actual name. Not the route number, not current resident, not the post office's address. My full name, handwritten, on an envelope, sitting in a mailbox at a house with no legal occupant, no power, no reason for anyone to know which specific carrier had that route, let alone what I was called. He told me he didn't open it. He said he put gloves on out of instinct more than anything, bagged it like evidence, and drove straight to the station instead of finishing his loop. He told me not to come in until he called the police himself, properly this time, with an officer he actually knew. I never delivered Route 9 again after that day. Corporate or whatever, passes for corporate in a rural postal district, reassigned it within a week. No explanation required or given, which tells you something on its own, because normally getting a route change takes an act of God. I know 2 more things and then I'm done, because this is where the story stops being my story and starts being something I only heard secondhand. And I try to be careful about that line. The first thing the officer Estes brought out did eventually get into 1187 with the county's blessing to check on the trespassing complaint properly. According to Estes, and I have no way to verify this beyond trusting a man I worked next to. For 4 years, the house was empty. Furniture under sheets, dust everywhere, nothing touched, no sign of anyone living there, squatting or passing through. No boot prints inside matching the ones I'd seen outside. No forced entry anywhere, as if nobody had been inside that house in 2 years, exactly like the county's own paperwork said. The second thing, Estes never told me what was in the envelope. I asked him twice, and both times he changed the subject fast enough that I stopped asking a third time. About 8 months later, he took an early retirement. Nobody saw it coming. And when I called to say goodbye, he told me one thing I haven't been able to shake since. He said the handwriting on that envelope didn't match anything the county had on file for the house's previous owner, but it matched closely enough that it unsettled the one officer who bothered to compare it, the handwriting on postal forwarding requests filed under my name, requests I never submitted. I still drive past Corliss Road sometimes, on my way to other places, because you can't really avoid a road forever in a town that small. The cedars are gone now. Somebody finally cut them down last year. The house is still standing, still empty as far as the county's concerned. I don't slow down when I pass it, but I always check the mailbox flag. It's never once been up. I want to say up front, I still have the booking records. I still have the messages. I've read through them so many times that I've got whole sentences memorized, and I still can't tell you what actually happened. I can only tell you what I saw in the order I saw it. I own a 2-bedroom unit on the second floor of a converted duplex. I've rented it out short-term for almost 4 years. Before this, it was just a side income enough to cover the mortgage on my actual house. With a little left over, I did the cleaning myself for the first year, then hired someone once I had enough bookings that I couldn't keep up. I tell you all this because I want you to understand that this was, for a long time, the most boring possible version of this job. Check in, check out, 5-star reviews, the occasional lost phone charger. Nothing that would make you think twice. The first booking under the name Melissa Ann Carver came in on a Tuesday in March. 3 nights, paid in full up front. ID verification cleared automatically, the way it always does. The platform does that on its end, not mine. I don't see faces at that stage. I just see a green check mark that says verified and a name. She checked in without incident, left a 5-star review, said the neighborhood was quiet and the shower pressure was great. I remember that detail specifically because nobody ever comments on shower pressure, and it stuck with me as a strange, specific little compliment. 6 weeks later, a booking came in from someone named Melissa A. Carver Reyes. Different card on file, different phone number, area code from 2 states over. I didn't think anything of it. Carver's a common enough name, and I get plenty of returning guests who don't always match the same profile info if they're using someone else's card or a shared family account. She checked in. Same thing. Quiet, polite, no issues. Left a 4-star review this time, said the walk to the train was farther than expected, which was true, so that also felt normal. People are picky about walking distances. It wasn't until the 3rd booking that I actually looked. The name on that one was M. Carver. No middle name, no hyphen. Different phone number again, but this time, out of habit, more than suspicion. I clicked into the ID verification thumbnail, something I almost never do, because the platform already tells me it's verified. And there's no real reason to double-check a green check mark. The photo was cropped differently than I remembered from a screenshot I'd saved of the first one. I keep screenshots of every ID for my own records. A habit from a bad experience early on with a guest who tried to dispute a damage charge. I pulled up both images side by side. Same face, same mole above the left eyebrow, same crease at the corner of the mouth where someone might smile if you gave them a reason to. The haircut was different in each photo, shorter in one, pulled back in the other, but the ears were the same shape. And I don't think most people think about the fact that years don't really change. 3 different names, 3 different phone numbers, 3 different cards, same face, cropped a little differently every time, like whoever built the ID had learned exactly how much of the frame the verification software actually checks and no more. I told myself it was a scam of some kind. People do this: steal a face from somewhere, run it through fake documents, book with stolen cards to launder money, or run some kind of subletting operation. I've read about worse. I flagged the account internally, made a note in my files, and moved on with my week, because that's what you do when you've got 6 other guests checking in and a leaking faucet in Unit 2. The 4th booking is the one I can't explain away as administrative curiosity anymore. It came in under the name Daniel Carver, not Melissa, Daniel. Male on the ID, though, and I want to be careful here because I know how this sounds. It was the same face, not a similar face, the same mole, the same crease at the mouth. Someone had, I assume, altered the hairline and added what looked like a very convincing 5 o'clock shadow, digitally or with makeup. I genuinely don't know which. But it was unmistakably the same underlying photograph, run through some kind of edit, presented as verified ID for a different legal name and, apparently, a different gender marker. I did not approve that booking. I called the platform's host support line, sat on hold for 40 minutes, and when I finally got a person, I explained what I was looking at. She was polite. She told me that, from their end, all 4 bookings had cleared independent identity verification with no flags, no shared card numbers, no shared IP addresses at the time of booking. As far as their system was concerned, these were 4 different verified adults who had never met each other. I asked her to just look at the photos next to each other. She put me on hold for a long time. When she came back, her voice had changed, not dramatically, but enough that I noticed. She said she'd escalated it to their trust and safety team, and that I should decline the 4th booking, which I already had, and that if the guest tried to rebook under a new profile, I should report it immediately and not engage directly. I asked her what "don't engage directly" meant, exactly what I should do if this person just showed up at my door. She didn't answer that part. She said someone from trust and safety would follow up. Nobody ever did. For a few weeks, nothing happened. No new bookings from anyone matching that face. I started to relax into the explanation I wanted to believe some identity fraud operation, probably targeting several hosts at once, probably already moved on to easier marks. I even stopped checking the ID thumbnails because checking them had started to feel like a compulsion rather than due diligence. And my partner told me, not unkindly, that I was letting this take up more space in my head than a stranger's stolen photo deserved. Then, on a Thursday in late May, I got a message through the platform. Not a booking, a message. It came from a profile with no photo, a name that was just initials, JR, and an account created that same day. The message said, "Rooms still available for the 14th, right? Same room as last time. Tell Danny I said the shower's better now, haha." I sat with that message for a long time before I answered anything. I want to be precise about why it unsettled me the way it did. It wasn't threatening. It wasn't even strange on its surface. Guests reference previous stays all the time, recommend places to friends, mention shower pressure, which again is a specific and recurring detail across every version of this account. What got to me was the phrase, "Tell Danny." Not Daniel, Danny, a nickname. The kind of thing you'd only know if you actually knew the person, not just borrowed their photo for a fake ID. I didn't respond right away. I looked up the dates. The 14th of June was a Sunday. My existing calendar had no bookings. That week at all, the unit was sitting empty because I'd taken it off the market temporarily after the fourth incident while I figured out what to do. Which meant this new account, this JR, wasn't looking at my live availability. They were looking at something else. Some previous version of my calendar, maybe cached somewhere or relayed to them by whoever had actually stayed there before under one of those four names. I reported the message. I got an automated reply saying it had been reviewed and no policy violation was found because, and I want you to sit with this the way I had to, asking about availability isn't against any policy. There's no rule against a stranger knowing your unit well enough to reference the shower. I decided to do something I probably shouldn't have. I looked back through my own guest communication history, all four accounts, everything from Melissa Ann Carver through Daniel Carver, and I read every single message they'd ever sent me, start to finish, looking for anything that would tell me who this actually was. Most of it was completely mundane. Check-in questions, a request for extra towels, a note thanking me for the fast Wi-Fi, but buried in the very first conversation, the one from March, the one from Melissa Ann Carver, who left the 5-star review about shower pressure. There was a message I had apparently glossed over the first time because it came in at 2 a.m., and I hadn't been awake to really register it until the morning, by which point it just looked like ordinary small talk. It said, "Hope you don't mind me asking, but has anyone else stayed here who goes by Danny? Old friend of mine used to talk about a place just like this one. Small world if it's the same spot." I had answered half asleep something like, "Not that I know of. Hope everything's comfortable." The kind of generic host reply you send without thinking. I hadn't thought about it again until now. So somebody back in March, under the very first name to ever book my unit, was already asking about a person named Danny. And 2 months later, a completely different account books under the name Daniel Danny Carver. I don't know if that means the first account was hunting for the fourth, or if the fourth account was somehow hunting for the first, using my rental as a kind of meeting point or a message board or a trail marker that only made sense to whoever was following it. I don't know if Danny is a real person who actually exists or a name being passed between however many people are actually behind these accounts, or if there's only ever been one person, alone, cycling through names and faces and asking my old messages about someone who doesn't exist because the asking itself was the point. I took the listing down for good after that. Not paused down. I told the platform I was exiting the short-term rental business, which wasn't entirely a lie, because after this, I genuinely didn't want to keep doing it. I still get automated marketing emails from them every few months, asking if I want to relist. Special offers. Seasonal booking trends in my area. I delete them without opening them. About 4 months after I took it down, I was clearing out an old email folder and found a notification. I'd apparently missed a review notification, time-stamped from a period after the listing was already inactive, which shouldn't be possible because you can't leave a review on a stay that never happened. The review was 5 stars. It was from an account I didn't recognize, no name I'd seen before, and all it said was, "Tell Danny, thanks for the recommendation. We'll be back." I never rented the unit again after that. It's just sitting there. Now, my partner uses it as a home office. Sometimes when I'm in there, I catch myself checking the shower pressure for no reason I can explain, just to see if it's still what everyone said it was. It is. It's fine. It's just a shower. I don't know why that's the part that still bothers me the most.